Luis Ortiz was supposed to be fighting Alexander Dimitrenko in a stay busy fight in March before he makes his first defense of his WBA interim heavyweight title against Alexander Ustinov later on in the year. But for whatever reason, Dimitrenko and his team decided to pull out of the fight, and that left Luis Ortiz without an opponent. So he was scrambling around trying to look for someone. And one of the old war horses, one of the old veterans of the heavyweight division, decided to step up and start calling Luis Ortiz out. Very few heavyweights are calling him out. So you have to give credit to this guy to some extent. And that is Tony Thompson. He came out and started saying Ortiz is a hype job. He's a HBO hype job. I'll expose him. He don't have the guts to step in the ring with me. If we ever do fight, I'll knock him out. I'll do this, that, and the other. So obviously Ortiz and his people must have heard that. And Ortiz said, all right, let's fight. So the fight is set for March 5th. Luis Ortiz versus Tony Thompson. Two southpaws, two guys of similar dimensions. I believe Ortiz has got a slightly longer reach. Maybe a significantly longer reach, actually. But he's definitely got a longer reach according to BoxRec. I think Ortiz's reach is 84 and Thompson's is 81. I don't know what their arm length is. Thompson's definitely the heavier guy, carries more body fat. In terms of height, Ortiz is listed as 6'4", Thompson's 6'5". It'll be interesting to see what they look like when they're face to face, if there's any noticeable height difference at all. Stylistically, Luis Ortiz is a bit more explosive. I guess, you know, there's southpaws who have a similar style maybe, but Tony Thompson is more active, I would say, throws more punches. He's more experienced over the 12-round distance. In fact, Luis Ortiz has never been 12 rounds. The longest Ortiz has ever been is 8 rounds. And that's my only concern really for Ortiz in this fight, is stamina. Because, as I say, Tony Thompson does have a good work rate, even though he's painfully slow. Tony Thompson's punches are incredibly slow, but he does have a good work rate. He churns out the shots and he keeps going for 12 rounds. And we saw against Malik Scott recently that he was able to carry his power late in a fight as well and actually drop Malik Scott. I don't think Tony Thompson is necessarily a particularly concussive puncher, but he's a heavyweight at the end of the day, 260 pounds or whatever he is. So if he clocks you clean, he ain't going to tickle. You understand? So, yeah, he's experienced over 12 rounds. He can go the distance. The only time that I ever saw anyone outwork Tony Thompson. Now, people are beating him, obviously. Vladimir Klitschko's beating him. Pulev's beating him, etc., etc. But Pulev, to me, beat him more with boxing skills. The only time that I've seen anyone just totally outwork Tony Thompson, because Thompson's got a good engine, was Carlos Takam. Takam was just all over Thompson like a rash. I think Thompson was surprised by Takam's strength and his work rate. But other than that, Thompson's normally the guy who is pressing the action and throwing all the shots. And I expect that to be the case against Luis Ortiz, especially if Ortiz can't get Thompson's respect with that big left hand that we know Ortiz does have. I think Ortiz has got better skills than Thompson. I think he's got faster hands, probably faster feet too. I think he's a bigger puncher, more explosive. But as I say, he's never been past 8 rounds in his entire career. And I know people have kind of tried to pull me up about this because in the Jennings fight, to me, it looked like Ortiz was gassing. And from that, I've been a bit concerned about his stamina. But people have said to me, Hatman, look, Ortiz had flu in that fight. And that's the reason that he looked like he was gassing. So don't read too much into that. Okay, that's fair enough. But I have to see it for myself. I have to see him in a fight that goes beyond 7-8 rounds where he's not gassing. And to me, he didn't actually throw that many punches. I mean, it's not like he wasn't throwing, he threw a fair amount of punches in that Jennings fight, but it wasn't a particularly high work rate from Luis Ortiz. So I need to see him go past 7-8 rounds and still look fresh. That's my only concern about him really in this Tony Thompson fight. Will his stamina hold up? Because in every other department, I think he's better than Tony Thompson. So if Thompson's going to win the fight, I think it will have to be in the second half of the fight where he's more experienced than Luis Ortiz. And remember, Luis Ortiz being a Cuban, he fought hundreds of amateur fights, and these are, 3 to 5 round fights. So it's kind of hardwired into a lot of these Cuban guys to only have to go a certain amount of rounds. When they're pushed beyond it, some of these guys can struggle. Mike Perez is a perfect example of a guy who he just has that amateur system hardwired into him. And anytime he has to go beyond, 4 or 5 rounds, he just don't have it in the tank. Will that be the case with Luis Ortiz? I hope not, because I do think he's an interesting addition to the heavyweight division. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Luis Ortiz to win this fight. But if there is an upset, I think it will be Tony Thompson. Maybe not stopping Ortiz. It's possible he could stop him in the second half of the fight. But if there's an upset, it will be Tony Thompson coming on strong in the second half of the fight. Whether he gets a stoppage or a points victory, it will be him coming on strong in the second half of the fight to take it if there's an upset. So that's how I see the fight, people. Let me know how you see it in the comment section below. Do you think this was a wise move by Luis Ortiz to take this fight at such short notice? Was it a wise move by Tony Thompson? Maybe, at the end of the day, Tony Thompson's a veteran. He's looking for paydays. He's 43 years old, I believe. So he's going to try and take on anybody. It is what it is at this stage of his career. Some people are going to say, well, Thompson's nothing more than a gatekeeper now for fighters on the way up. And maybe he is. So maybe that's what this is all about. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this fight, people. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.